Hello, today is Monday, May 18th. Are you a good listener? Communication is definitely a two-way street. Speaking is at least as important as listening, and one could argue that listening is the more important tool in conversation and communicating effectively. To listen requires that we center in on the person who is speaking to us. It requires that we really hear what is being said, and that often we try very hard to perceive what is not being said, but what lies underneath the surface. When we hear that, we may ask a question or two. Those questions help the speaker to know that we truly heard, that we listened. Few things in life bring satisfaction to the soul, like knowing we've been truly heard. We may not think God hears us sometimes. We think this especially when God does not do what we tell him to do. Ever notice how our prayer sometimes deteriorates into our actually telling God what to do, what we want, and how we want it? If it doesn't turn out that way, then we might conclude that God isn't listening, or doesn't care, or worse yet, isn't really there. The gospel today tells us that God's Spirit is always with us. It will enable us to stay the course and to triumph over evil and persevere through the difficult times. God's answer to our prayer is not always simply doing what we tell him, but more often showing us how we can use our own creativity and intelligence and spirituality to move through our lives, good or bad times, that will be taken on in partnership that we have with God, so that when the hour comes, we not only remember what God has promised, but use that promise to rise above and move through the challenges and obstacles life frequently may put in our way. If we have listened to God, we call upon the message of presence and reassurance that should be our constant companion. Psalm 145 tells us today, "The Lord takes delight in his people." That delight is in our joy, in our peace, in our lives, that are lived filled with the grace of the Holy Spirit and giving joyful praise to God. It helps us to sing to the Lord a new song. Listen and hear the love of God speaking in your heart.